We're live. Test, test.
Good evening. Thank you for attending the Town of Amherst Traffic Safety Board meeting. Today is Wednesday, June 12th. I would first like to introduce you to the members of the board. I'm Cynthia Selden, Vice Chairman, and I'll let the other members of the Town of Amherst Department Liaisons introduce themselves. I'll start at the end with Captain Peterson first.
Captain Person, Amherst Police Department. Scott Marshall, Planning Department. Neil School, Highway Department. Bill Runaboo, Building Department.
Elaine Sanders, Traffic Safety Board member.
Kevin Cantwell, board member.
Dan Ryder, member.
Kara Biddlecombe, member.
Patricia Dunn, member.
Maxwell Kahn, member.
Chris Schregel, Engineering Department Traffic Safety Coordinator.
Mike Sukala, Town Board Member and Liaison to the Traffic Safety Board.
Thank you. Before we go any further, just to let you know, if the fire alarms go off, the exits are over there. You can either go out the front door, the back door, but please don't use the elevator. Thank you. And the first order of business this evening is to let you know that the minutes from last month's meeting will be in the August packet, as there is no July meeting. And before we start the agenda, I would like to go over just a few rules. Just to remind everyone, this board does not have lawmaking authority. Board members are volunteers and serving in advisory capacity to the Town of Amherst. The liaisons are here to support and advise the board, to have their respective departments act on recommendations by this board that do not require legal action by the town board. Should the board make a recommendation that requires legal action, a motion will be made and voted on. Should the motion pass, Councilman Zakala will take action to put the motion before the town board. As we close each agenda item, we will provide you with the information regarding the next steps. In order to address the concerns of those in the room, we do not go through the agenda items in order. We will go through the items based on the order of the sign-in sheet for new and old businesses. Once we review all new and old business items, then we move on to site plans. As we work through the agenda, we will first provide background information. Once that has concluded, we will open the public comment period. During the public comment period, those that have signed in for the agenda item will be provided 3 minutes to comment. When you come to the podium, please state your name and address. Please be aware that this meeting is being live streamed and recorded. As you discuss your item, be aware that each member of this board has copies of all correspondence you have had with the town. Therefore, there is no reason to repeat any information you have already stated. Once you hit about 2 minutes, 30 seconds, you'll receive a single bell ring indicating that you have 30 seconds remaining. At 3 minutes, you'll receive a double bell ring, and we ask that you promptly complete your comments. Once all residents in attendance have had their opportunity to speak, the public comment period will close. The agenda item will be open for a discussion among members of the board to take action. During this discussion, board members will not answer questions from those in the audience. Therefore, if you have any questions, please ask them while you're in your 3 minute that you're allowed. I would want to address a few topics that will come up during public comment period. One is the board is required to follow the manual on uniform traffic control devices. This document is issued by the federal government along with the New York State supplement. The document provides uniformity and consistency, allowing road users to know what to expect. The board will not make any recommendations that do not align to the MUTC, the manual on uniform traffic control devices. The Town of Amherst standard speed limit is 30 miles an hour. Town of Amherst has not posted any roads under 30 except in school zones as allowed. The Village of Williamsville does allow for lower speeds. It will require a legal action by the town board for this board to post a speed under 30 miles an hour. Per the uniform traffic control devices, stop signs are to control traffic at an intersection. Stop signs are not speed control devices. Speed bumps, humps, and tables are not currently used in the town of Amherst. This board is in favor of the use and has been working with the highway and engineering departments on recommendations for a pilot project street. Until pilot project is completed and guidelines are adopted by the town of Amherst, they will not be installed. So now we'll move forward with the meeting. And the first item on the agenda is actually old business from last month that Chris will turn it over to you.
Yeah, last month we looked at Cottonwood, specifically the, was it the 600 block, the one that's on your screen now? And at that time, traffic counts were displayed. The 85th percentile speed was around 35, 36. My draft minutes indicate that the police department was notified of the speeds. They were asked that they deploy a speed trailer when it becomes available. It was discussed why speed humps are not allowed currently, but the chairman did add that he would add it to the list of those streets that are desirable. There is a resident here who'd like to speak on that old business item. Given that it is not on the agenda, it is up to the board to have a vote to have this added as an old business item.
Do we need to make a motion? Or just vote? Do we need to make a motion or just vote?
Someone has to move.
I move we put it on the agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
So aside, other than the data collection that I just talked about, following that meeting, there was a memo that was sent to the police department. Here it is on the screen, essentially saying, hey, police department, Captain Persons, we've collected speeds in the range of 35 to 36 miles per hour. Please place the speed trailer when it becomes available. Do you want to turn it over to the public now?
We will turn this over to the public forum. Anyone who's here to speak on this matter, I have a Matt. I'm sorry, I can't read your last name.
Matt Markovich, I'm 592 Cottonwood. And at the last meeting, one of the items discussed was getting a petition circulated for our neighbors on the 600 block so that we could get it in front of you. And we got 75% of our residents sign the petition. I have that with me. I want to present that to you on behalf of the neighbors on the 600 block. And then what I'd like to also know is what the next steps after you review the petition.
So I would provide that petition to the highway superintendent. Ultimately, it's up to the highway department and the highway superintendent to pursue changes on the roadway. So I'm sure that would involve other departments as well, you know, the town board, emergency response, fire, et cetera. But it would be reviewed in some capacity, and ultimately the town will get back to you on a yay or nay on moving forward.
Is there a turn time for that?
I don't have any idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I hand this to someone up here? Sure.
How many signatures do you have?
75% of 36 households on that block. And we've gotten a hold of most of the residents. We have a couple real elderly residents that we're not sure. We had participation from all except for the two.
So how many speed humps were discussed? Can you go back on the mic, just so we have it in a record?
We discussed two.
Were there any residents in opposition directly in the locations identified?
No, the people that declined were not, to the best of my knowledge, in those positions. And I'll state that one of them declined because they don't like the lady across the street. You got me. And the other one was a rather new neighbor, and they were just really kind of uncomfortable doing it. They had just actually closed in their house within like the last week after we circulated the petition. So, and I share something with you as well. Tonight, I was getting ready to leave the house, and the kids next door, there's two boys next door. They're like, I think 11, 13, somewhere around there, playing basketball in their driveway. Ball went in the street, and I hear the brakes slam. And again, somebody's whipping down that block. The kid's ball went in the street. Luckily, not the kid. But again, it's an issue. And I think I stated the last time I spoke that I've been there 30 years. This has been an ongoing issue. It's just been exacerbated because we have an influx of a lot of young families. I'm one of the old people now. A lot of our neighbors have turned. And we've got a lot of kids. We've got probably 20 to 30 kids again on that block. A lot of little kids. And it's really become a hazard. You know kids, they whip in and out, they don't look. But these people go down there incredibly fast. I really would like to see even a little bit more police presence down there because our frequent flyers are there constantly. We know who they are. We know when they come back and forth. We can hear them day, we can hear them night. So this is a problem. And I know you're opposed to the speed bumps. I know there's, a pilot in the works. We all get that. And we just want to appeal to you that, the sacrifice of one of these kids is really not worth the fact that we're opposed to putting speed bumps in, even if it's temporarily. And one of the options that we came up with was even if you put them in on a temporary basis, the parking lot at my church actually puts them in during the summer months and removes them in the winter. They put them in with some kind of spikes. Even if those were put in during the summer, because the problem doesn't really exist in the winter. Most people are inside. People slow down. There's snow. It's icy. But it's when the kids are out during the summer vacations, and it really should be something to look at, even if you put them in seasonally. It would make sense to us.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there anyone else here that would like to comment on this? Being none, I will close the public comment period for this item and open this.
Vice Chairman, may I ask a question to the gentleman?
Sure.
Specifically, what time of day, we've had officers out there about 5 times the last few weeks, and they have not stopped any speeders. Do you know specifically what time of day those regulars you're talking about are coming by?
I'm home typically late afternoon into the evening. I can tell you that it occurs probably between 3 and 7 or 8 this time of year.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
What's the parking on Cottonwood in your block?
There's no alternate parking. People park on the street. There really isn't a restriction on parking on
On
Cottonwood.
either side, you park on either side.
Yeah, people park on either side. I can't say there's anything that restricts any parking on that block of Cottonwood.
Well, if there's nothing restricting the parking, one thing that's recommended to mitigate the whole speeding problem is to have people parking on the streets. When you put cars on the street, speeders don't speed as much because they got to worry about what's going on with those cars. Besides, there are obstacles too. That's one of the first things you recommend. You might want to get your neighbors, even as you're going around petitioning, suggest that they park their cars on the street to make it harder for the speeders.
We can suggest that, and certainly that's probably an option. I don't know how practical it is because mainly, there's a lot of people with little kids with car seats and stuff like that. It might not be practical, but it's worth exploring.
Sir, are you the author of this petition?
I didn't hear you.
Are you? Are you the author of this petition?
Wendy Sanacor, who's my neighbor at 555, and Nicole Manning, who's I think it's 573.
They reference that 70% of residents must sign in support to move forward with a consideration by the town of Amherst.
Right.
Do you know where that number came from? Was that talked about at the last meeting?
At the last meeting.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we refer it, the petition to the highway department.
Second.
I'm not so sure. Have we tried, the police trailer hasn't been deployed yet, has it? Okay.
So we haven't taken any speed.
There's been counts.
Speed counts were reported last month. The 85th
the black-
percentile was
Is that
30.
that black box that you had on the pole?
Yes,
36 miles an hour.
36 mile per hour.
Package, I'm sorry.
Yep. And it wasn't in this month's package. It was the last month's package, and 35 miles per hour.
This wasn't
So
on this
not-
month's agenda.
Not Westfield-like, you know, the other location that we tried to pilot was Westfield, and they had an 85th percentile speed of 39 on a residential street. There is no criteria established by the town to install speed humps because there hasn't been that support to install speed humps. So there is no policy that dictates, you know, what mile per hour trips that type of countermeasure, nor is there any type of policy that would dictate the 70% resident support. So I just wanted to clear that up.
So is the 70% something that is accurate or not? I'm confused.
I don't know. I'd have to review the last meeting minutes
Okay.
and maybe speak to the chairman who might have said that as to where that came from. But I'd have to track that down.
Yeah, because we walked out of here understanding it was a 70% of,
Keep in mind, we're not exactly prepared for this item. We just signed you in on the agendas, you know, ad hoc here. We're not prepared for this item completely to discuss it yet.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
We're not prepared to discuss this item completely because it wasn't even on our agenda this month. So, and anything that's discussed is really not, you can't put a nail to it tonight.
I mean, it was on the agenda
We
last
just
month.
received, it was discussed last month and didn't meet the criteria, and we're just receiving his petition.
Right, we haven't had a chance to do anything about this yet.
I'm not asking you to make a decision. I'm just trying to understand your perspective.
Okay, so the way I look at it, we've got a vote on the table to refer to other departments.
All in favor?
Aye.
Those, the motion was to submit the petition to the highway.
Who made the motion?
I made the motion.
Okay, thank you.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye. And just for the record, we should also, I guess, make a separate motion to refer to the rest of the departments, like multiple departments, so it doesn't just get.
along.
Okay,
I'll copy
that's
that.
fine.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Will this be on the agenda next month so I can tell my neighbors?
No, this board is generally in favor of speed humps. It's the departments that are not, and town officials. So they're going to pass it along, and they're the decision makers. This body is a
Understood.
advisory only, so they've done their job.
And
Yeah,
how
at this point, we've done what we can.
And how do we convince those departments that this is a need? How about if we meet with them? Letters don't do too good. 'Cause I've been to the town board meetings, and I really think that our neighbors need to be seen and heard. Can we put it on the agenda for the town board meeting?
They have public comment.
Okay,
Each speaker gets 3 minutes.
I get that. Yeah, I've been there. I get it.
And just to circle back, the vote was 6-1 to submit the petition to the highway department.
Opposed is Campbell.
Who is the one?
Kevin Cantwell. Kevin Cantwell opposed.
Okay. That's all
Thank
I've
you, sir.
got. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Being there's no one else from the public here to speak, we're just going to move down the agenda items. Chris, could you tee up the next agenda item, please?
Can you announce it? Announce it. We go in order now.
Yeah, I know. I'm looking for my sheet. Just gonna use it. The next agenda item is Worley Drive between Garrison and Rubino Court, speeding and pedestrian-related concerns.
All right, so the town received an email from a resident who lives directly on Worley. That item is within your packages. Item 1. On the screen is a small presentation that summarizes the concerns as well as the data provided to you. The location is rather vague. It's between Garrison Road, which is a signalized intersection where it intersects with Worley, and Rubino Court, which is a local road that intersects with Worley to the east. The roadway itself is under the jurisdiction of Erie County. The signal located at Garrison is under the jurisdiction of the town of Amherst. So summarizing their concerns, there's a request to reduce speeds from down to 20 miles per hour from Garrison all the way to Columbia. Next one is in the area of the lane reduction, where it changes from 2 lanes down to 1. This lane reconfiguration encourages speeding, it's dangerous merging behavior, and results in vehicles mounting the sidewalk to avoid collisions, whereby creating a safety hazard for pedestrians. The resident goes on to complain about loud engine noises and frequent racing, and they are disruptive and hazardous, especially near the Garrison yield signs. There is a request for increased police presence. It's requested to deter speeding and noise disturbances. They're also asking for a new pedestrian crossing at Monroe and Worley, or at Cadman and Worley. They claim that the crossings that are already established at the Garrison signal are unsafe and inconvenient. Furthermore, current crossings are often ignored by drivers, especially when yield signs are obscured by summer foliage. And they request police enforcement at pedestrian crossings to ensure driver compliance, and they emphasize walkability and urge for safety-related improvements for the families and pedestrians in that area. We pulled the crash data in that area. Nothing completely stood out. Obviously, you're going to get a lot more rear ends and collisions directly in front of an intersection, specific to the intersection of Monroe and also Columbia and Worley. These are likely left turns. On occasion, the traffic does back up in peak hours across these streets. So I imagine that sometimes there could be some crashes as a result. I have not looked into the crash data specific to those intersections. Yeah.
Right.
On the south side. Okay. Thank you.
So is that to say that this is really is that to say that this is a Village of Williamsville thing or a Town of Amherst thing? An Erie County thing?
What can we do? I mean, if it's a village, I mean, we can't lower the speed limit.
So I think
This is about a half-mile stretch of road that's at issue here. I mean, from Rubino to Garrison is that's many streets. I don't exactly know where Rubino is on that, but it's a long span of road to be worried about. And there's a whole laundry list of complaints here.
Okay, so one at a time then.
Yeah,
The,
I think Scott's point should be considered. It's, here's the village line, and here's the village line to the east. So it pretty much encompasses most of her concerns. So I did not catch that. I thought only half of this was village.
Chris, do we know who determined the speed limits there?
No, I don't.
It'd be county, yeah, it's a county road, the county's got.
Total county?
It is county, yeah, but I don't know who made the determination.
We've had complaints in this neighborhood over the years, but I don't think anything ever changed. Speed limit wise.
I will make a motion if anyone else agrees to send to village.
Who set the speed limit and who would change it?
Well,
County?
yeah, the town is a size population where we can influence and adopt a resolution on a county highway for a speed limit, but the board has no ability to do that in this section where it's a village. So to answer your question, the county would, because the village isn't the right population or size to dictate that speed limit, so that would ultimately be the county.
I'd be happy to take this matter to the village.
Okay.
I make a motion to bounce this down to the Williamsville Traffic Board. Traffic removal.
Seconded.
Traffic safety.
To the Williamsville Traffic Safety Committee to review this as this is in their jurisdiction. I make the motion to do that.
Seconded.
Is there a second, please?
I will second it.
All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? 7-0. So, the pedestrian safety enhancement, that's all those.
No, they referred to the village. Yes, but there are, police enforcement items within that request. You could ultimately refer to the police department for enforcement if you desire.
Just for the board's knowledge, and I've already set in motion some traffic enforcement. We're going to be speed trailer up there at some point. I did refer her to the village board, or the village traffic safety committee.
Thank you, Captain. Okay, the next item on the agenda, and there's no public comment as there is no public here, is for Meadowview Showmont request for an all-way stop.
The location is Shellmont Drive in Meadowview Lane. This was brought forward by a resident in that neighborhood requesting an all-way stop for the purpose of pedestrian safety and also to clear up driver confusion. On the screen indicates that intersection. It is a four-legged intersection with stop signs on two approaches only, stopping Meadowview, both in the, I want to say northeast and southwest. And they are requesting a stop sign for Showmont in both directions. Here are some site photographs provided by the petitioner or the applicant or the resident, I should say. This one's looking southeast on Showmont, and this, wait, I'm sorry, looking south. Yeah, that's right. Looking southeast on Showmont, obviously there's no stop sign. Looking southwest on Meadowview, there's a stop sign. This is crash data taken from the state's Clear Crash Data Viewer. After looking up 5 years, there are no crashes at this intersection. Typically, traffic engineers look at 3 years, but I extended it to 5 years and there's still nothing there. And again, those are reported crashes. Next is Highway Department was able to place counters out last week. So this information is not in your package. It's new to you tonight. But we do have new counts for all approaches. Where there are not stop signs, there is higher speeds. That would be Showmont. So 31 in one direction, that's the southeast direction, and 29 in the other. And then we placed the counters pretty far from the intersection so we could get better mid-block speeds on Meadowview, and those speeds were not that bad at 28 miles per hour southbound and 23 miles per hour northbound. When you look at I know this is small on your screen, but when you do look at the all-way stop warrant analysis, there is not enough traffic to warrant an all-way stop in accordance with the MUTCD. The major road approach, which again would be Showmont, you need 300. We peak at 114 at, let's see, that would be 11 a.m. And in the minor approach, you need 200 vehicles per hour, and the highest we get looks like is 51. Did I say 11? I'm sorry. It's 4 o'clock. I was looking at the wrong thing. 4 o'clock for both. So no accidents. 85th percentile speed is 31, and the volume warrants are not met. With that, I'll turn it over to the board.
I have a question. It says major and minor road. Are we sure which is the major and which is the minor? Because I was out there and driving that section, it appears that actually Meadowview might be the major and Shawmont might be the minor, and this might be signed incorrectly.
My records indicate that the minor, which is Meadowview, has less vehicles approaching.
All right, so Meadowview is in fact the minor. Okay,
Okay,
all right.
hold on. No. Yep, that's correct. Yep.
Yeah, it says up in the upper right corner there.
Yep. And then Showmont's the major, so we're not supposed to stop the major.
All right, okay. That was my first impression looking at that neighborhood.
Were there any cars parked on the street?
I don't remember.
Wide driveways in that neighborhood.
It is a little confusing because there's just some roads coming and going, but you know, it's not going to meet the warrants for a stop sign, for an always stop.
Yeah, it doesn't meet the warrants for the stop sign, so.
I will move to receive and file for warrants not met.
No accidents.
I'll second that. All in favor to receive and file, motion's been made and seconded, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's 7-0. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is Main Street, Berryman, Gettsville, request for crossing guard and driver confusion related to signalization. Is there any public comment on this? Being none, I'll turn it over to the board for discussion. Oh, Chris, I'm sorry. Could you,
Yes. So we received an email, and it also went through Deputy Supervisor Lavin's office, where it was then relayed to this board, specific to Gettsville and Maine, and we'll throw Berryman in there as well. When going eastbound, there's two concerns. First of all, part one is confusion related to the Main Street signals. Main Street is Route 5. It's a state DOT jurisdiction, state-owned and maintained. Part two is a request for a crossing guard. So specific to part one, the concern is that when you are eastbound on Main Street, vehicles are stopped and they allow, and the signalization allows for the southbound Gettsville traffic to turn left and then continue through the Main Street Berryman signal, they're given a green to kind of clear out this area. It's a very small gap between the Gettsville and Berryman signals. So I think the thinking by the state is let's clear them out of there so they don't impede the traffic flow on Main Street. But in doing so, the signal, since it's so close, is being misinterpreted as the signal for Gettsville. The Berryman signal is showing green, so the Gettsville eastbound approach is proceeding through the red light, whereby conflicting with the left turners on Gettsville. I live in the area. I have seen it myself, so I can confirm that this does happen. So here are your options that I can see. You guys are welcome to add more. Receive and file, you may refer to DOT without recommendation. You may refer to DOT with recommendation. I guess number 4 would also be to provide to the police department for enforcement. Some considerations before you decide. According to MUTCD, traffic signals on major routes within 0.5 miles of each other should ideally be coordinated. I can tell you Main Street is coordinated.
It is or is not?
It is. The book also says maybe limit visibility of the far signal by modifying the bulb angle or installing louvers or visors. Personally, I don't think this will work because you still need to see it when you're turning off of Gettsville.
There we go. Number 3. That's what we want to do.
Number 3 is install a supplementary sign such as an R10-6, which just says stop here on red. There is no sign that I could find in the book that says do not proceed when you see a far green ahead. You know what I mean? This is the best I could come up with. But again, I open it up to you guys.
Can you add do not pass go?
Can you add what?
Can you add do not pass go?
Yeah, right. Okay, and then to jump into the crossing guard request, Chairman, do you want to do this at 2 different times? Do you want to discuss one at a time, Vice Chairman? Or do you want me to move on to part 2, or do you want to discuss one part at a time?
Let's discuss one part at a time.
Okay.
So my first idea with that is I think we should just kind of refer to DOT. I think we should refer to DOT, but maybe ask them to reconsider the syncing of it because everywhere else, no. Yeah, I sure, but no, I get that. I get that, but the other ones that are like that, where there's the back-to-back, the one that I'm thinking is on the 33 on Union, right? So they're synced up so that you can't make the left turn unless both are going, so you'd go through, right?
Well, that's what happens here.
Yeah.
Gatsville goes.
No, I know, but yeah. Okay, I just.
What's happening is people are ignoring that signal. They're ignoring the first signal.
No, I get it. My only skepticism is I don't ever see that happening at Union. So I'm thinking something, right? No.
Happens very frequently. I have seen start going, like, oh, crap.
Okay.
And before you get to part 2, I'm pretty sure the state, when they went through this whole section of during COVID, all these signals have pedestrian buttons.
Yes, they do.
Good enough for me.
So Chris, could you just restate what your motion was? I mean, Max, I'm sorry. I'm looking right at you.
Okay. No, that's fair. It wasn't even so much emotion. I was just talking through it. So I'm fine with that. That's fair logic. I'm okay with it.
I have a question. Is there a crossing guard anywhere for the high school, for Damon, for,
What a crossing guard?
yeah, crossing guard,
This is what I mean in Harlem.
crossing guard on Main and. All right.
Crossing guard policy is only. Yeah, some of the guards that have been there for a long time, the posts have been grandfathered in, but I don't think it would be Chris probably knows better, but.
Yeah, we'll jump into part two in a minute. Let's get by part one.
Okay, yeah.
I'd like to send it back to DOT without any recommendation, because I don't know what to recommend.
Only thing I can think of would be to install the sign, the R10-6 sign. It would say, stop here on red. And that seems to be the problem.
Okay, so we're having any formal motions made? Anybody making a formal motion here?
Okay, sure, I'll make the motion. I make the motion, we bounce this up to DOT with a recommendation that we install as appropriate, the engineers can figure that out, as appropriate, the R10-6 stop here on red sign to tell people to stop here on red. I make a motion.
Aren't they stopping there at red now?
No, that's the problem. They're not.
No, they stop, they go on green.
They-
and
The problem that happens is people stop there, stop work. I've seen it happen. And that far light will go green, and then they start going and realize, oh
Right.
shit, the light's.
They think
So
it's-
they stopped at red.
They're already stopped.
Yeah. So, yeah. Let me just add a little bit more to that. So Scott's right. You stop here first, and actually both are red because at that same time they allow Berryman to turn left. So you as a driver see that both are red, and then all of a sudden you've been waiting, and then the far one goes green only, and that's what That's what the drivers are looking at. Something to turn green in front of them, and they proceed even though their closest signal heads are still red.
Do we have accident counts here?
No, I don't.
State highway, state's.
Yeah, but
So we have a motion to refer to state DOT with a suggestion to place an R10-6 sign.
I made that motion. No one's-
And no one has seconded.
I'll second it.
Max is seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm opposed, just,
And I'm opposed. So it's
Elaine, are you
Four-
opposed or?
No.
Okay, so
so it's
4-3.
4-3.
I would just state that my recommendation would be no recommendation, so just refer to DOT and let them figure out what is going to be the best thing here. So that's all.
I agree with that.
And I agree with that. That's why I voted no.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, on to the second part.
Oh, thanks, forgot. Okay, so the second part is in reference to the crossing guard request. The town does have a policy for crossing guards. I think I may have included that in your package. It is adopted and it requires a nearby school with a K through 8. There's real no definition of nearby, so I would give this a yes with Amherst Middle, St. Ben's, Sacred Heart Park School. It also requires over 150 vehicles per half hour. This is a state highway, Main Street. There's close to 20,000 vehicles, so that's a yes. Is there a marked crosswalk? Like Scott mentioned, there are crosswalks as well as ped heads, so that meets that one. Well, what we come to is in reference to how many children are actually crossing there that are K through 8. And that ends up being no. We collected this data on 6/10. That was a decent day, and it was 65 to 70 degree weather. It was sunny. These times are dictated by the policy on when you go out and check. I'm sorry, I didn't fill this in. But during those appropriate times in the AM count, we had 0 K through 8 crossers, and we had 2 crossers over the 8th grade. I think in this direction there were 2 adults. In the PM, there were 5 K through 8, and then there were 7 others. So well shy of the 20 school children. There is language, I think we talked about this a couple months ago, that allows the town board to put in crossing guards regardless of the criteria collected. But it's ultimately up to this board to make a recommendation or receive and file.
I'm okay with receiving and filing because what's going to happen is those counts are so low that, I mean, it would meet the criteria for it to be removed. So,
I second the motion that Max made to receive and file. All in favor?
Aye.
Yep.
Opposed? It's 7-0 to receive and file.
I do want to make mention, there are crossing guards at Main and Harlem and Main and Eggert, so they are flanking this location.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is old business. Item A is Spruce Buckeye resident feedback related to a parking restriction proposal. Is there any public comment? Closing public comment. Chris, could you?
Yes. So this is an old business item, talked about last meeting. At Spruce and Buckeye, I think you guys recall it, there are safety concerns related to on-street parking on both sides of Spruce near Buckeye. The request was originally for a no parking here to corner for a distance to be determined. Again, here are the maps that were shown and also included in the package. There are a lot of area no parking requests. I'm sorry, no parking signs already present. This is the area of concern. And in your May review, you looked at area parking. You had 2 residents speak in favor of a parking restriction. The board agreed that a parking restriction would be beneficial on both sides of Spruce. The actual distance was not defined. You ultimately asked that the town reach out to immediately impacted residents to gain an understanding of support. Inside your package, not on this presentation, but it shows a map of who we went out to. Here's a tally of what we heard back. We sent out 7 letters. Aside from the original 2 resident support speakers at the last meeting, we received 2 positive responses and 1 email expressing opposition. Those in support wanted a 20-foot long parking restriction, and the other one in support wanted a no parking Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, in an area that's shown on the next slide. The one that was opposed says there's already enough parking restrictions in the area. There is no heavy traffic, and there's really no need for this. It's going to cause problems. And this is, I'm giving you an option. One, this is what I came up with, as well as the resident number 2 here came up with the same thing in terms of a distance, kind of taking this eastern building line and extending it. It's already VNT law says there's no parking 30 feet from the stop sign, so that mimics that. We could even put this up next week if we wanted to legally. The other side we could not. That would require a town board action, and that is ultimately 45 feet from the curb line and would match the VNT on the other side. And then you'd have to discuss, A, are you in favor of this? Do you want to extend it, shorten it, not do anything? But if you do provide a recommendation, I ask that you provide, what time frame, all days, all hours, or a variation. With that, I'll turn it over to the board.
On the south side, law, that would be all day.
That would be a what?
We're going to install a no parking from here at corners.
Yes.
Can't park with the
It's a good point, Scott.
30 feet of the stop sign, that's all day. Only the north side.
Yes, unless you wanted to extend that.
Well, to be consistent with all the other signs that are time-related, we'd want to make it 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., not, what did they say, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., the person who responded?
Yeah.
So I think if we did anything time-related, we want to be consistent 7 to 5. Now the question is, do we put something there? And if so, is it time-related? Or is it like all time?
So I think practically speaking, since it applies to so few people, what's going to happen is anything that's going to go for a town vote you're probably going to get 2 people that are in favor, 1 that is not because they've already voiced their opposition, and that'll kill the town vote. I'm fine with doing it if we think that that's appropriate and let the town board decide, but I think the safe thing would just be put up the no parking close to the stop sign because that's already supposed to be there anyway. It's there all the time. We're good to go. That's my recommendation.
Yeah, the town board will ask me what the feedback is from the residents, and I'll report to them who's in favor, who's not. So,
No.
but you're right, if somebody shows up and speaks in opposition, it could kill it, but you never know.
Just practically speaking, but whatever. That's not a motion. I was just saying.
Any other thoughts? Any motions?
On the south side, it is appropriate to put no parking because that's the way it's supposed to be anyway, right? So I move, we put the no parking 30 feet stop sign on the south, is that the south side's got the short arrows, right?
Sorry, what?
Is that the south side? with the
South
short
side is where, right here, yeah, north is up.
All right, so I move, we put a no parking, no parking anytime and place it 30 feet from the stop sign or the intersection. Was it stop sign or intersection?
Stop sign.
Stop sign. So 30 feet back from the stop sign. I move we do that.
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The vote is 7-0 to
That's one
put
down.
the no parking 30 feet from the stop sign.
That's 1 down. Now, what about the north?
South side, park very wide.
Do you think?
This and see what, you don't need town board approval to do this.
Because it's implied by the stop sign.
Yeah, I'm probably okay with leaving it with just the south one and seeing if that, because I agree, I understand that the issue was that they're saying it's difficult to turn, but it's just a regular T intersection. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know why this would be different than any other road.
Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens with one sign. Let's see what happens. Okay. So I guess we'd have to move and receive and file the north one then, or moot it or whatever.
I think we're okay because we made a motion, we made an active thing.
We acted on it. See what the rest of it.
That was it. Yep.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is the Heim Road Mosque, the town mosque resident meeting results. Any comment from public comment? No public comment?
So I've got a little presentation. You want to just jump in when we get to each? Sure. Okay. So there was a meeting called for by Councilmember Zucala at the request of this board. I believe Kevin Cantwell asked that a high-level meeting take place. Thank you, Councilmember Zucala, for organizing that. We had a meeting with mosque administration as well as residents and some town staff. And ultimately, a couple action items came out of this. My intention is to go through each one, and then Councilmember Zucala can give an update where needed. Mike, do you have anything else to say before I jump into this?
No, I'll jump in as time goes on.
Okay. So the first one was to contact a nearby school for parking. This is tasked to Mike, where Councilmember Zucala will contact Williamsville School District to inquire about the availability of parking spaces at Williamsville North, and to see if there could be shuttling services provided to the mosque in between the school and the mosque itself. Next one is request police presence. Again, tasked to Councilmember Zucala. He will talk to the police chief and ask for increased presence of the police department to ticket illegal parkers and ensure that officers are present during Friday prayer time. Okay, number 3, again, task to Councilmember Zuccalla, discuss a new location of a new mosque, where the planning department will be discussed with to see if there's any potential for another mosque location somewhere in the town of Amherst where it could relieve a lot of the, people do prayer on Fridays, that they can go to this other location, whereby eliminating all the overflow parking at this location. Next one is the responsibility of the mosque itself, where they are going to be placing traffic cones. The mosque will place traffic cones on streets where there are parking restrictions during the Friday prayer, and especially during large-scale events to deter illegal parking. I need an update on that one. I think it's happening.
Actually, I'll wait till you finish
Yeah,
and I'll
okay.
jump in.
Gotcha. Next one, 5, utilize the Buffalo Convention Center. Maybe potentially this isn't the best location for those huge events. Potentially maybe utilizing a convention center or other large space to congregate those that want to pray during the large scale events could be pursued. So Councilmember Zuccalla to inquire with your county executive on the potential for finding another location. This one came from the residents. They questioned if a tow-away zone could be implemented. Again, that was provided to Councilmember Zuccalla to inquire with that police chief about implementing a tow-away zone. Number 7, this one is to the mosque administration, writing a formal letter to the Amherst police chief where the mosque would formally put it in writing that they support ticketing where there are parking restrictions on adjacent neighboring streets. With that, I will turn it over to the board or Councilmember Zuccalla.
Okay. I did have a meeting with members of the mosque, including the equivalent of their parish council and neighborhood residents. The mosque was kind enough to open up one of their meeting rooms, and we had a meeting, I believe it was actually now it would be 3 Fridays ago, at the actual facility. Everyone was cooperative. Everyone behaved wonderfully. I can't complain about any of that. And we discussed and dealt with all of this. As for contacting a nearby school for parking, what I discovered is the reason that people are parking haphazard all over the place is traditional Muslim services don't last that long. Well, traditional Muslim services don't last that long. I won't use any analogies. The people who arrive early, let's say 15, 20, 30 minutes before a service, they park in the parking lot. There's no problem with that. It's the people showing up 5 minutes before service begins, and they'll park wherever they can find a space. And in many cases, they don't park in a responsible way, or they're just busy just parking and leaving. It's those people that are the problem. And as a result, when I talked with the mosque leadership about setting up a shuttle bus from, let's say, UB or the high school, they said it's not going to work because the people who are parking like morons, excuse the expression, are the people who are showing up late. And they're not, if you're already showing up late, you're not going to go to the high school and then wait for the shuttle bus to take you to the mosque. No, that's the problem. The problem is that those people are showing up at the last instant, and the idea of a shuttle bus service doesn't work. But we can go to the next one here. So they said that's a suggestion. They've tried it with working out with other churches in the past, and it doesn't work because the problem is people showing up late. Increased police presence. I had a wonderful conversation with the chief, and we have what we'll call a pocket agreement where for 4 Fridays, he's assigned an officer to come and watch things at prayers. He's done that for the past 2 Fridays. He's kept his word. I appreciate the chief. He's a stand-up guy. We said we would evaluate it after 4 Fridays and see what happens. There have been tickets issued. Officers have been there. I know it's working because neighbors have called me and said, thank you for seeing to it that officers are there. Things seem to be getting better. And I was very happy to hear that because that's what I want to hear. So it's a start. I recognize, though, and the chief made it very clear that this is not something that can continue forever. He can't assign someone to that spot forever, but at least it's a good start for the time being. Discussing the location with the planning department, that's actually not necessary. The people at the mosque are already aware that the mosque is small and that the Muslim population in Amherst and West New York is growing. They're already looking for a site. They've explored a number of different sites on their own, and it's my hope that we won't need to get involved at all, that they'll find a spot that they can afford that meets their needs, and they'll buy that piece of land and they'll build a mosque there, and they can do what they need to do. As for placing traffic cones, I did have a conversation with the chief about this. He asked that they not do that, and so I've had a talk with the mosque people that they wouldn't put cones out, and so that was one of the things that they did, and they've cooperated with that. As for the Buffalo Convention Center, we just didn't have enough time to do that before the last Muslim holiday. We might be able to do that going forward, but once again, they run into problems where they have people arriving at the last minute. Also, the imam at the Amherst Mosque is extraordinarily charismatic and very popular. He's a very young man. And I've had a chance to meet with him and talk with him. And he's just popular on his own. And I have a feeling wherever he chose to preach, just as if you were a rabbi, a popular rabbi or a popular priest, you'd attract people to your congregation. That's what he's doing. And it's my hope that he'll stay. We consider it a problem, but he doesn't. He's very happy. The number of people who attend his mosque has jumped. Can we go to, all right. The tollway zone, I actually apologize. I have not followed up on that. I've been busy with other things, but I will make a call and see if I can find out about that. And I know that the mosque folks have decided that they would write a letter. I don't know if they did it or not, but I know they told me they would. As I said, it was a successful meeting, and I've had a number of conversations with people, either via phone or text message or email. I think we're making great strides to deal with this.
Now, Mike, didn't you mention something? I remember talking with you about this. Didn't you mention something about the mosque offering valet parking?
Yes, that was a suggestion that came up at the meeting, is that what the mosque would do, what happens is people are showing up at the mosque late, and you drive in and you can't tell where the empty spaces are. And there are empty spaces in the parking lot. I mean, not 30, but by a handful. And so what the suggestion was is that they would have some young men waiting in front of the mosque. And you would pull up and you give them your keys. They would park their car and you could run in and make the religious service at the last minute. By the way, whatever church or religious group you belong to, you can kind of relate to this. They're exploring that idea, and I hope they do it. You know, gives young men or young women a nice job, and it kind of addresses part of the parking problem. 90% of this problem is related to two things: people showing up at the last minute for services, and the fact that this imam is very popular. He draws in a crowd.
Well, thank you, Councilman, for all your work on this. We really appreciate it. Yeah. Is there any discussion for the board?
I can appreciate why the Amherst police can't guarantee to do this forever or every week. Is there an avenue where the mosque could hire an off-duty police officer to do this work?
They've already hired their own security people, and it's had mixed success. As I said, the problem with the mosque is the people who are showing up late, they know that it's not Amherst police officers, that it's security hired by the mosque. So they're not taking them seriously. Because I actually had a chance to witness this past Friday. I was off this past Friday, and I don't live far from this location. I live on Stewie, which is about a block and a half. It's close enough where I walk to the mosque when I talk to the imam. And people who are showing up late, they know that it's mosque security.
security, and they won't write them a ticket, so they park like, they park poorly, because they know there's no repercussions. That's why when APD shows up and gives tickets, that's a good thing. Some of those folks are surprised and horrified. Well, good, then maybe they'll behave better. But, I don't know.
Well, it's one of the things that works, right?
Yes, it does work.
Yeah.
But it's impossible to station somebody there long.
Right.
Chief made that very clear. We need to come up with two solutions: short-term solution, long-term solution. And I'm, as I said, I'm discussing with Imam, long-term solution. Long-term solution is they build another mosque. Short-term solutions, we're working on some stuff. They're working on some stuff. I would never say that the problem's solved, but I would say we've taken strides towards solving.
Oh, it's a complex.
Well, that's why we bounced it to a big community forum. There's a lot of stuff going on here.
It's only on a Friday afternoon from,
It's from specifically Friday afternoons from 1:30 to 2. Now, when they have a special religious event, prayers are also in the morning. So when they did Ed Al Nadir, forgive me if I'm mispronouncing it, that was from 8 until 10, and then 1:30 to 2:30 in the afternoon on that Friday. That day was a very busy day. It turns out I was off work that day. For those of you that were interested, that was also the grand reopening of the Walmart. And I did the grand reopening, and I went right over to the mosque. And I understand, after having seen it myself in person, that's what's happening. People are showing up very late to go to church or to worship, and in a rush, they park forward.
Well, Councilmember, again, I just want to thank you, and it sounds like everyone's trying to work together, which is good that the community, the officials, and obviously the police are working to solve this. So, again, thanks for your input in this, and just keep us up to date.
One of the things that struck me was another conversation I had with folks from their version of the parish council. There are people from outside of Amherst, Muslim outside of Amherst, who do come to the mosque, not just because the imam is very popular and very charismatic, but there are some mosques in Western New York where they don't feel safe. And they came right out and said that, and that's a credit to the people of Amherst and the Amherst PD, because people do feel safe at the Amherst mosque, and that pulls in more worshipers.
it's the price of success.
The victims of their own, that's what I'm thinking all along, victims of their own success.
Thank you very much, everyone. So we're going to move on to the next agenda item, which is old business number C, Mona LeBrun, always stop sign warrant analysis. Chris?
Yep, so this is an old business item. It was held at the last meeting to gather some counts. The request, by the way, was to look at the safety and see if there's any way to take a look at the signage. The resident who's here tonight approached the town and said it's just the configuration of these stop signs. We discussed it at length last meeting. Stopping only in one direction provides some ambiguity and some unsafe traffic patterns. So you guys asked that we look at the all-way stop sign warrant analysis specific to the VA hospital driveway in LeBrun, as well as Mona and LeBrun. We asked the highway department to place counters because the VA hospital driveway is private. We were unable to place a counter within their property. There's also really a no good spot for that. So we do not have the count for the VA hospital, but you can apply the LeBrun Road volumes towards that, as they are essentially the same. But we do have the counts for the Mona and LeBrun. We'll go over those in a minute.
Okay, at this time, we're going to open.
Yes, Cynthia, I've got more,
Oh,
sorry.
I'm sorry.
No problem.
Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah. So we looked at the crash information for the past 3 years. There were no related crashes specific to the stop signs on record. Here, and this should be in your package, are the always stop warrant criteria. And as we kind of just discussed, there's a major road and a minor road. The minor being Mona, the major being LeBrun, carrying the most traffic. And you get to around 238 in the highest hour in the AM, 7 a.m. But you taper off, to the low 100s for the majority of the day. In Mona, you really don't get anywhere near that 200 vehicles per hour threshold, the highest being 130. The 85th percentile speed on LeBrun was 31 miles per hour in this location. Therefore, not only do the warrants don't get reduced in any fashion for the crash or the speed, so we stick with the 300, 200. So no, the all-way stop sign warrants are not met. Yes? I don't know if they started. I've heard about it, but I don't. Yep. Sir, we'll open it up to public comment in a moment. So just arrived today is another letter. Cindy, did we distribute those?
Yeah, we got them.
The letter that came in today? Okay. So hopefully you had a chance to look at that. That is from a Mona Drive resident specific to this item. Cynthia, did you read that at all yet? Okay. Is there any way to summarize it? I don't have a copy, otherwise I would. Karen, you think I could use your copy real quick? So the resident wanted to point out that there is, heavy traffic in the AM and PM hours. She's concerned with the speed of the vehicles. She wanted to point out to the board that there is heavy truck traffic entering and exiting that VA hospital. She referenced a lot of right turns. It's not in this letter, but I did speak to her. Right turns coming out of that VA hospital driveway with the heavy trucks. Specific to Mona, there is a parking restriction on the south side at 176 and 182, and there are people parking within there, and she's asking for more police enforcement of that parking restriction. She says there's some visual issues with 2 of the 3 stop signs, with some bushes and trees blocking the stop sign. And she also talks about, that wall, that 8-foot screening along the VA hospital that can also limit some visibility as well. Excuse me. She also claims that at 2 of the 3 stop signs, drivers simply do not stop. They cannot see the intersection clearly until they pass the signs. There are garbage trucks making 3-point turns to collect traffic. To collect trash. There are multiple buildings on the VA property that have parking lot entrances and exits. And then she talks about sidewalk repairs are needed. That's really in front of the maintenance building and daycare that happens to fall outside the town's boundary. And says that the LeBrun entrance exit to the hospital is not sidewalk handicap accessible. Again, that's a City of Buffalo / VA hospital issue. And that sums up that letter. That's all I have for you tonight. Thanks, Kara. Here you go.
Thank you, Chris. Next, we'll open it up for public comment. Would you like to speak on this, sir? Just come to the podium and state your name and address. And you weren't here in the beginning when I gave the instructions. You have 3 minutes. At 2:30, you'll hear a bell, and then 30 seconds after that, your 3-minute warning, you'll hear 2 bells, and we ask that you wrap it up then.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyways, I'm Bob Morocco. I live at 150 LeBrun Road there. I've lived there 30 years, started talking with Chris originally about the speed. I continually have people in my front lawn, basically going both ways. I found people literally out in the middle of the lawn. We found, so anyway, started talking about getting the speed limit reduced, which was taken care of. I said, well, there's also another traffic issue in that at both stop signs, it's not really clear who's got the right of way, and you see people just sit out there. It's kind of a standoff. Are you going or not? Even though the people on the run, in one case, have the right of way turning into the hospital. And well, in both cases, in turning onto LeBrun or onto Mona, then they also have the right of way, and it's not clear. And sometimes people just stop and go, not knowing that. And other times, people that have the right of way have the people at the stop sign stopped, and they just sit there, not turning. And then eventually, it turns out the people go at the same time. So I thought adding a couple of signs, maybe at both stop signs, at the one at the on LeBrun Road heading towards the hospital, and the one at the stop sign coming from Eggert Road, putting another sign there basically saying the oncoming traffic has the right of way, and that might clear up the situation and prevent accidents. That's it.
Thank you, sir. Any other public comment? I'm going to close the public comment.
Before he goes, I'd like to ask him, he was going to comment on the construction. What construction is going on there?
Doing like, I think, the 9th and maybe the 8th floor at this point, and they're also moving the surgery centers from inside the hospital to what used to be the lab building out in front there. That big building.
All right.
That you see off the wing. I think all the surgeries are going to be done in there now.
Okay, is this affecting traffic in any way in that area right now?
Well, what it did originally, in that the construction workers were parking between LeBrun and Bailey on that end. And they were ticketing occasionally from Buffalo, but they threw out the tickets. But eventually, I think it caught up with them, and there's no parking there now. So that's better, but otherwise, I don't see it to be a problem.
The hospital do contact our department looking for a place they could rent parking spaces, lease parking spaces. Part of this, we're going to lose a lot of parking.
Well, what about the parking? They spent $25 million to build a ramp there. I don't know how much that's used now.
They have a new contract to add another story or two on that ramp.
Really?
Yeah. I don't think it started yet.
Had about 400 spots. Anyway, they spent about 25 grand a spot there. But, you got the question? To wrap things up, I guess I thought a couple of small signs, as I said, that said oncoming traffic has the right of way would prevent any accidents or so.
Or cross traffic don't stop.
You can't use that. Cross traffic does stop.
That's right. Sign wrong.
Oh, what a mess.
Should have probably stop sign.
Have the sump ban.
No accidents, Chris?
No.
Just a lot of people hemming and hawing, stopping and starting and trying to figure it out?
No.
Okay, so
Bob, you're not in favor of the removal of stop signs or the addition of stop signs?
No, not at
You
all.
like it the way it
That would
is?
cause more problems than just adding
And the
clarify what's happening at the intersection.
recent letter that you just got is also says they don't want any changes related to the traffic control.
So,
And it doesn't meet any of the warrants aren't met.
Right.
So
if this was a dentist, it's like a bad tooth that you say, watch, okay? I move a receive and file.
So one thing I will say, because it's easy enough to do, right? Let's take a look at the signs that might have obstructions in front of it. See if we can take anything down there, right? That's.
Any signs with
There
obstructions
was a.
No, I know
yeah.
this, yeah.
Well, but it's worth looking at.
This was about trimming like trees and hedges that
Right.
might be obscuring
Yeah.
the existing stop signs, just so those can be seen. That
Yeah.
seems like something that we can recommend.
The fence is chained, so that's nothing. So the issue is to add an extra stop sign, you have to
Like on
hit,
Amherst, where they have stuff, cross traffic does not stop, I think there's signs
But-
to that effect.
but the cross traffic does stop on this one. So you can't use the
Oh, right. But I'm saying that.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
That's why I suggested a small sign that says oncoming traffic at the right of way to keep it simple and straightforward. Because people do sit out there. I look out my front door every day and see people just, people stopped in the road when they have the right of way and people sitting at the stop sign waiting for them to go. And then it turns into a standoff and.
Is there such a thing as yield to oncoming traffic? Is it something like that?
All the signs mentioned are not in the book, other than cross traffic does not stop. So let me just explain that. There is the manual on uniform traffic control devices. This is a federal book that is also supplemented by the state DOT. In order for the town to utilize a sign, it must be in the book. I think you asked on the phone when I was with you that why don't you just make up the sign? There is a procedure to come up with your own sign. It has to be approved by both the state as well as the Federal Highway Administration. But you're welcome to suggest that, but I doubt it would go anywhere. That sign would be a little confusing, but.
So the issue is when we originally put down signs, we do it based on what the major leg of traffic is and what the minor leg of traffic is. And those signs are actually not accurately put up to begin with, and that's probably why everyone's confused. Problem is, like you've said right now, asking people to take down signs rarely gets support, right? So what would the best scenario that would probably fix everything would be take down those signs, readjust them the way they should be, but we can't put up, it doesn't meet the warrants to put up stop at all directions.
Yeah, no, I don't think that'd help, but I've seen what happened when they added stop signs at like Brantwood and a few other streets on Saratoga. Literally, I saw accidents happen. The guy was putting the sign up and a minute later, somebody stopped for it.
Yeah.
And the guy behind him didn't stop and ran into it.
Well, to be fair, those normally happen because people in the neighborhood know what the signage is. This one's a little bit different because this is a hospital, so you're going to assume people are going to be coming there that don't know what it's like. So it is a little bit different than that, but I do get what you're saying completely. Like the residents on LeBron would 100% realize what that's supposed to be, but I think the issue is more X person that has to come to the VA for some medical condition. They don't know,
I think you
right?
would see if you remove those stop signs, because Chris said because he said according to traffic law, you could remove those stop signs.
Yeah.
And I thought that would even cause more problems.
Well, yeah. So that's what Chris was getting at was they're not properly signed to begin with, and they probably shouldn't be there.
In essence, if they remove the ones on the front, we could put up a sub panel on the one that says cross traffic, don't stop.
But getting stop signs removed is like,
It's awful busy, if you have no traffic control whatsoever, would be.
So I think the issue is that the traffic control is controlling it in the wrong direction, right? Because the stop sign is supposed to be stopping people coming out of the hospital, not people going.
There's a
on the
stop
road.
sign there.
Oh, I know, but I'm saying it's not correct as signed. So I think we're in a little bit of a tough spot because the only real thing that can be done on this would be to remove things, which I don't think anyone really wants here. So
Well, it's just a suggestion. Started originally talking with him because of the fact that people were ending up on my lawn.
no,
And,
totally get it.
There's another traffic issue that you may want to look at, and
Completely get it.
if there's nothing that can be done.
But it's worth looking at the shrubbery and making sure nothing is obstructing it in the meantime.
Correct.
So Chris, were you gonna make a motion on that? I mean, Max, I keep calling you Chris, I'm sorry.
I don't,
You can refer to the highway department for clearing of,
Yeah.
Clear up the visibility
Yeah, we'll-
problem.
it doesn't need a
Do
motion.
that.
we don't need
Okay, we don't need a motion. Great. Thank you.
And then if accidents start happening there, I'll bring it back to our attention. Okay, right now, it's tough to act on something that just does not have the crash history, you know.
Exactly. So, okay, thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. The next agenda item under old business is item D, bike path crossing North Forest Road near Auden Apartments, pedestrian counts. Chris, take it away.
So I don't have any data, and now I can't collect data because school's out. With the terrible spring, that we did go out there one time to collect data, and turned out to be a school holiday that day, so we scrapped those counts. So we never got them. Had some others on the list that were prioritized, and now we're going to have to wait till school's in session again in the fall.
Okay, thank you. So,
No, you have to,
Is there any other old business?
is there any other old or new business the board would like to bring up? Hearing none, we can move to site plans. Thank you very much for the liaisons, for your assistance as always. We really appreciate it. Have a safe evening.